You remember those nights, don't you? The lights were low, the atmosphere was thick, but as you looked into their eyes, you realized something terrifying. There was nobody actually there. That hollow, silent realization that you were dancing with a ghost in the dark is precisely where we need to start this conversation, because that profound emptiness isn't an accident. It is by design. You have spent so much time analyzing your own performance, wondering if you were too distant, too demanding, or simply not enough. You've played the scene over and over, trying to find the moment the magic died. But I need you to understand that the failure never resided in your spirit or your body. The script was written for your confusion, long before you ever entered the room. We are going to strip away the confusion today. We aren't talking about bad sex in the conventional sense. We are talking about a calculated psychological architecture. The narcissist doesn't experience intimacy, they experience a power dynamic. If you have ever felt like an actor in a play you never auditioned for, keep listening, because this is the clarity you have been starving for. Think about the way they looked at you during those early days. It wasn't just desire, it was a hungry, predatory intensity that made you feel like the center of the universe. That was the first stage of the trap. They were mirror imaging your own desires back to you, ensuring you were addicted to the reflection. It was never about seeing you. It was about securing your total devotion. We have to address the elephant in the room, the secret life of a narcissist behind closed doors. You have likely sensed that their bedroom behavior is disconnected from the person they portray in public. This duality isn't a glitch in their personality, it is the core of their strategy. It's a mechanism for control, and tonight, we are finally pulling back the heavy velvet curtain. I know you feel foolish for not seeing it sooner. Please, stop that line of thinking right now. You couldn't have seen it because you are a person of empathy, and you were looking for human connection where there was only a transactional void. You are not stupid for trusting. You were just being held to a standard of intimacy that a disordered person is fundamentally incapable of achieving. This conversation might get uncomfortable, but it is necessary for your healing. We are going to identify the specific, recurring patterns that narcissists use to maintain dominance when they are most vulnerable. By naming these behaviors, you take their power away. You transform from a confused victim into an informed observer, and that is where your genuine reclamation of self begins. Have you ever felt like you were being tested during your most private moments? That feeling of walking on eggshells even when your clothes were off? That is the hallmark of a system designed to keep you off balance. Narcissists use the bedroom as a laboratory to experiment with your reactions, measuring just how much of your boundaries they can erode before you notice the cracks. We are going to go through 10 specific behaviors that are almost universal in these dynamics. Some of these will make you wince with recognition. Others might clarify a moment you tucked away because it felt too dark to acknowledge. Do not turn away. The truth is the only scalpel sharp enough to cut the trauma bond that has kept you tied to their distorted reality for so long. Take a deep breath. You are safe now. You are in a space where the truth is invited, not feared. We are going to look at these behaviors not with shame, but with the cold, clear eyes of an investigator. You survived the darkness. Now, you are going to understand exactly how the trap was constructed so that you never, ever step into it again. Let us begin this necessary, difficult work. The first behavior is the mirroring trap. In the beginning, they seem to anticipate every desire you have. It feels perfect because it is a performance. They are playing back your own subconscious preferences to induce trust. They aren't interested in your actual needs. They are gathering data to map out exactly what will make you the most dependent on their approval and their attention. The second is performance art, where sex becomes a theatrical audition. They are constantly checking their own reflection, mentally reviewing how they look, and adjusting their behavior based on your reaction. It is not an act of union, it is an act of validation. They aren't connecting with you, they are watching themselves, ensuring the main character energy is always maintained. The third is the sexual silent treatment. When they feel you pulling away or asserting a boundary, they weaponize intimacy. They don't just withhold sex. They do it with a cold, calculated disdain designed to make you crave their approval. It is a punitive measure, a way to make you beg for the connection you used to have, effectively resetting the power dynamic in their favor again. Why do they do this? Because to the narcissist, intimacy is not a shared vulnerability, it is a resource to be managed. They feel intense anxiety when they aren't in control. By turning the bedroom into a place of uncertainty, they ensure that you are always looking to them for the green light, constantly monitoring their mood, and walking on eggshells to avoid rejection. The fourth behavior is the love-bombing flip. They use intense, overwhelming physical affection to distract you from their actual character flaws. It's a bait-and-switch. They drown you in physical intensity so that you ignore the lack of emotional support. It's a sensory overload strategy, ensuring you are so focused on the physical peak that you miss the psychological abyss. The fifth is voyeuristic triangulation, which is devastating. This involves bringing in fantasies or third parties, not for mutual pleasure, but to make you feel like you are competing for their attention. They want you to feel insecure, to make you feel like you are constantly on the verge of being replaced. It forces you to work harder to keep them, which is exactly what they want. Let's talk about the mindset. You have to realize they are viewing you as an object, not a partner. In their mind, you are a source of validation. If you are not performing, or if your needs get in the way of their ego gratification, you become an obstacle. This is why the intimacy feels disjointed. It is because there is no us, only them, and their need for a human prop. You might be thinking, but they were so passionate. That passion was a survival mechanism for them. They needed to secure your bond. When the narcissist is passionate, they are actually just hyper-focused on securing their supply. Once they feel they have won you, that intensity usually shifts into something colder or more demanding. It is never about shared joy, it is acquisition. The sixth behavior is degradation as dominance. They may introduce elements that are meant to shame you or make you feel small. This isn't about healthy exploration, it's about testing your degradation. They want to see how much of your dignity you are willing to trade for their affection. It is a slow, methodical stripping away of your self-worth, disguised as adventure. This is the part that hurts the most, recognizing that your vulnerability was their favorite weapon. When you opened up to them, they didn't treat it as a sacred gift. They treated it as a tactical map of your insecurities. They knew exactly where to touch, what to say, and how to act to trigger your deepest need for connection, effectively holding your heart hostage for their own entertainment. The seventh behavior is the gaslighting pivot. Imagine this. They ask for something specific, you agree, and then later they accuse you of being too much or twisted for doing exactly what they suggested. They are rewriting the history of your intimate moments to keep you constantly questioning your own reality, your own desires, and your own moral compass. It is psychological warfare. You've likely felt that sudden, jarring coldness after a moment of closeness. That is the eighth behavior, the post-coital ghosting. The moment the act is over, they disconnect. They won't cuddle, they won't talk, they turn away. They have drained the supply they needed from you, and now that you are no longer useful to their immediate ego need, they discard you until the next time they require fuel. This is the moment the power shifts. You are lying there, feeling raw and exposed, and they are already mentally miles away, checking their phone or scrolling through social media. You reach out, but the air is freezing. You realize then that the intimacy was a one-way street. You were the only one who showed up. They were just there to take what they needed and move on to the next task. This isn't just lack of romance. It is a deliberate devaluation. By ignoring you after intimacy, they are reinforcing the idea that you are secondary. They are telling you, without words, that your feelings do not matter. It is a micro-abandonment that occurs over and over again, eroding your sense of worthiness until you start to believe that you aren't deserving of consistent love. Let's look at the ninth behavior, weaponized vulnerability. They will pretend to be deeply wounded or needing healing through physical closeness. They act like they are finally letting their guard down with you. It's a total lie. It is a performance designed to make you feel like the savior of the relationship, keeping you bonded to them through a false sense of being the only one who gets them. You thought you were healing them, but you were actually just fueling them. Every time you tried to fix their intimacy issues with patience and love, you were giving them exactly what they needed to stay anchored to you. They don't want to be fixed. They want to be worshipped. And as long as you believe you are the only one who can save them, you will never leave the toxic cycle. This is where the plot twist hits you. The more you give, the less they respect you. Because they don't value intimacy as a connection, they value it as a conquest. If you give yourself freely and completely, you lose your value in their eyes. You become a sure thing. And for a narcissist, the greatest tragedy is a prize that is already won. They need the chase, which is why they create drama. They start manufacturing crises or misunderstandings in the bedroom to keep the tension high. They might accuse you of something you didn't do, or suddenly change their preferences to something you are uncomfortable with. They need that friction. A peaceful, loving, and predictable intimate life is their worst nightmare because it offers them no control, no conflict, and no supply. You have seen this, haven't you? The look in their eye when they know they have upset you. That slight, barely perceptible smirk. It is not an accident. They are energized by your distress. They are feeding on the negative emotion you are experiencing. They have successfully turned the most vulnerable part of your relationship into a place of anxiety, and they are thriving on the chaos. This is the turning point for you. When you recognize that their passion is actually a hunger for your reaction, the spell begins to break. You start to see that the person you were intimate with was a construction, a suit they wore to lure you in. And once you see the mask, you can never unsee it. You are no longer the participant in their game. You are the one deciding to walk away. The 10th behavior is complete objectification. This is the ultimate destination of the narcissistic path. They stop seeing you as a person with needs, feelings, or boundaries entirely. You are a mirror, a toy, a tool, or a trophy. Your body is just a means to their end. And when you are stripped of your humanity in their eyes, the damage to your own spirit becomes truly profound. The consequences of this are not just emotional, they are visceral. You might find yourself feeling disconnected from your own body, or feeling a strange sense of shame about your desires. You have been gaslit into believing that your natural human needs were somehow wrong or excessive. This is the lingering trauma that takes time, patience, and true self-compassion to finally unspool. You start to lose your identity. You find yourself performing even when they aren't looking because you have internalized their criticism. You aren't just reacting to them anymore, you are policing yourself. You are walking on eggshells in your own skin. This is the deepest, darkest consequence of their behavior. They have colonized your inner world, and you feel like a stranger. Look at the wreckage of your self-esteem. You were a vibrant, desiring human being. They took that and they turned it into a currency they could spend. They traded your intimacy for their own validation, and they left you bankrupt. It is not your fault, but it is your responsibility to acknowledge the cost. You are paying for their ego with the currency of your own soul. The collapse is inevitable because a house built on lies cannot stand. They cannot sustain the performance forever. Eventually, the cracks show. The indifference grows colder. The manipulation becomes more blatant. They will push you again and again to see how much you will take. They want to know the exact breaking point of your spirit, and they will keep pressing until you finally shatter. You have felt that shattering, haven't you? That moment where you realized you couldn't give any more, and instead of comfort, you received contempt. That is the moment they lose interest. Once you stop providing the supply, whether it is adoration, reaction, or despair, you become boring to them. They will start looking for a new target, a new theater for their play. Do not mistake their move to a new target as a success for them. It is just the cycle repeating. They are doomed to play this game forever because they cannot face the emptiness inside themselves. They need a constant stream of new victims to distract them from their own hollowness. You are not the problem. You are just the latest casualty in their desperate, eternal search for validation. The emotional toll is heavy. You are grieving not just the person you thought you knew, but the version of yourself that you lost during the relationship. You feel hollowed out, confused, and perhaps even broken. That is a natural reaction to being treated as an object. But please, hear me, this is not a permanent state. You are not broken. You are just recovering from a great theft. You must accept that there was never a real them. The moments of connection were just more sophisticated forms of manipulation. This is hard to swallow, but it is the truth that sets you free. You were loving a ghost. You were projecting your own capacity for love onto a void, and the tragedy is that you were doing the work for two people while they were only ever doing it for one. Take a long, hard look at the reality of it. There is no version of this relationship where you are loved the way you deserve to be loved. The narcissist is incapable of it. They are locked in a prison of their own ego, and they will try to pull you into that cell with them. Recognizing this, truly seeing the pathology for what it is the only path to closing this chapter for good. Now, we talk about the exit. This is not about revenge or winning. It is about total, absolute indifference. When you stop reacting to their games, their gaslighting, and their performances, you starve them of the supply they need. You become the one thing they cannot control. A person who no longer cares what they think, who no longer seeks their approval, and who finally values their own peace. You are reclaiming your body. You are reclaiming your desires. You are reclaiming your right to be a human being, not a prop. You get to decide what intimacy looks like for you. You get to set the terms, and you get to say no to anyone who does not respect the sacredness of your boundaries. That is not just empowerment. That is your birthright as a sovereign, whole human being. Imagine a life where you don't have to perform, where you can be messy, where you can be tired, where you can be unpolished, and you are still held with unconditional love. That is what awaits you. It is a quiet, steady, and secure love. It is not the fireworks of the narcissist's trap, but it is real, it is honest, and it is yours to build whenever you are finally ready. You have learned a brutal lesson, but it is a masterclass in human nature. You now possess the ability to spot the mask before it gets close to your heart. You can see the patterns, the mirroring, the triangulation, the devaluation, and you can choose to walk away the moment the red flags appear. You are protected now by the wisdom you earned through this incredibly difficult experience. You are going to heal. It will not happen overnight, and there will be days where you miss the illusion of what you thought you had. That is part of the grief. But you are healing. You are knitting your spirit back together. Every time you choose yourself, every time you trust your own intuition, you are healing the parts of you that they tried to destroy. You are stronger than you realize. Stop looking back at the theater. Stop analyzing their lines and their motives. They are gone, and they are playing the same hollow game with someone else. Let them. Your focus is no longer on them. Your focus is on the sunlight hitting the floor, on the sound of your own breath, on the life that is waiting for you outside the shadow of their distorted, endless, and empty performance. You are not just a survivor. You are someone who has seen into the darkest corners of human behavior and came out the other side with your capacity for love intact. That is a miracle. Do not let them harden you. Keep your empathy, keep your kindness, but place a fence around your garden. Protect your heart. It is the most valuable thing you own, and it is for someone worthy of it. Think of this as the final scene of the movie. The camera pans away from the stage, leaving the narcissist alone in their empty, cold theater, talking to an audience that isn't there. Then the camera finds you. You are walking out into the real world, into the light, into the air. You are breathing, you are free, and you are walking toward a future that is entirely, beautifully yours. You have the truth now. It is heavy, but it is a weapon. You can use it to build a life that is impenetrable to those who would try to manipulate you. Trust your gut. If something feels off, it is. If you feel unseen, you are. If you feel like an object, run. You have the map and you know the landscape. You will never be lost in that dark, hollow, narcissistic maze ever again. You are enough, you have always been enough, and the moment you truly believe that is the moment they lose their power over you forever.